In the rugged mountains of Montana, where law enforcement lines blur and justice moves at its own pace, a veteran canine handler named Sergeant Marcus Trace Blackwood thought he'd found peace after 3 tours as a Special Forces canine trainer. His Belgian Malinois Shadow wasn't just the pride of the Silver Ridge Police Department. He was the last gift from Marcus's late wife, Sarah, who'd trained military dogs before cancer took her 2 years ago. But tonight, as snow falls on the abandoned logging roads outside town, the Razorback Riders are about to learn why Special Forces canine handlers are called Death's Trackers in the darker corners of the world. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Trace's boots crunched through fresh snow as Shadow worked the perimeter of Silver Ridge's only shopping center. The Belgian Malinois moved with inherited grace. Sarah had trained Shadow's mother during her last deployment, before the diagnosis changed everything. 3 years on the force hadn't dulled the military precision in Shadow's movements, each step calculated, every sense attuned to potential threats. "Clear the corner, boy," Trace whispered, watching his partner sweep past the darkened storefronts. Friday nights were usually quiet in Silver Ridge, population 3,842, where everyone knew everyone, and trouble announced itself with the rumble of unwelcome motorcycles. His radio crackled. K9-1, suspicious activity reported at Old Morrison Mill, multiple motorcycles, possible drug activity. Copy dispatch. Shadow and I are 10 minutes out. The abandoned lumber mill had been a problem since the logging industry dried up, its skeletal structures perfect for less savory gatherings. As Trace guided his patrol vehicle down frost-slicked roads, Shadow's posture shifted, the relaxed vigilance of routine patrol transforming into combat-ready focus. The mill's empty parking lot held fresh tire tracks in the snow. Shadow's ears pricked forward as they approached, picking up sounds beyond human hearing. Trace recognized his partner's alert posture from countless missions overseas. There were multiple hostiles ahead, and they weren't bothering to stay quiet. Dispatch, K9-1 on scene, multiple subjects present requesting backup. Copy K9-1, Deputy Rogers is 20 minutes out. Trace studied the mill's dark silhouette. 20 minutes was a long time if things went sideways, but Shadow was already tracking. Sense, his military training taking over as they moved through the shadows. The first sign something was wrong came from the laughter. Too loud, too cruel, echoing from the mill's main building. Shadow froze, hackles rising as his training warred with instinct. Trace felt it too, that sixth sense developed through years of hunting high-value targets through war zones. They found the Razorback Riders in the old loading bay, 8 leather-clad figures surrounding something on the ground. The gang had appeared 6 months ago, claiming territory along the Montana-Idaho border with increasingly bold operations. Tonight, they'd crossed a line. A police K9 vest lay shredded in the snow, its owner nowhere in sight. Deputy Sarah Chen's K9 unit had gone offline an hour ago during routine patrol. Now Trace knows why. Looking for something, cop? The voice belonged to Marcus Butcher Rodriguez, the Razorbacks leader, former Army Ranger turned outlaw, dishonorable discharge after Afghanistan. He emerged from the group, steel-toed boots leaving bloody prints in the snow. "Where's Deputy Chen's dog?" Trace kept his voice steady, one hand on Shadow's harness. His partner vibrated with controlled fury, recognizing the scent of another K9 in distress. Butcher's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Rex?" "Poor bastard, stuck. His nose where it didn't belong. We decided to teach him some manners." The group parted, revealing a dark shape curled in the bloody snow. Rex, Chen's German shepherd, lay motionless but breathing. The damage was methodical, calculated. This wasn't random violence, but a message written in pain. "Back away from the dog," Trace's voice carried the cold precision he'd developed hunting insurgents. "You have no idea what line you just crossed." "Actually," Butcher stepped forward, features twisted in the harsh beam of Trace's flashlight, "we know exactly what line we crossed. That's the point. See, word is, you're some kind of special forces dog whisperer. Tonight's about showing everyone that fancy military training doesn't mean shit out here." Shadow's growl deepened as more Razorbacks emerged from the shadows. Trace counted 12 now, armed with chains and steel pipes. They'd planned this, wanted this confrontation. "Last chance," Trace warned, already knowing they wouldn't take it. "On your knees, hands behind your heads." Butcher's laugh echoed off steel walls. "Boys, show our friend why we're called the Razorbacks. And make sure you get this on video. Our followers are gonna love watching a tough guy K9 handler get schooled." They moved with practiced coordination, trying to separate Trace from Shadow, ex-military among them, judging by their tactics. But they didn't understand what they were dealing with. Shadow launched into motion the instant Trace gave the command. Years of combat training transforming the police K9 into something else entirely. The first Razorback went down screaming as Shadow targeted his weapon arm with surgical precision. Trace moved with fluid economy, each strike calculated. He hadn't survived 3 tours, hunting high-value targets by fighting fair. 2 more Razorbacks fell before Butcher revealed their true plan. "Now!" Multiple smartphones lit up the loading bay as Shadow engaged a 3rd target. They weren't just filming. They were using tactical lights to disorient both Handler and K9, a technique straight from the Special Forces playbook. What followed was chaos, but not the random violence the Razorbacks expected. Shadow fought with military precision, each movement designed to disable rather than maim. But they had numbers, and they'd come prepared. Trace saw the taser too late. Shadow convulsed mid-attack as electricity coursed through his tactical vest. The Razorbacks swarmed, chains and boots finding flesh as phones recorded everything. "That military training ain't so special now, is it?" Butcher's voice carried over the melee. "Let's see you track anyone after we're done with your mutt." Trace fought with cold fury, but a pipe caught him behind the knee. As he fell, he saw Shadow still fighting despite the taser's effects, protecting his handler until a second shock dropped him completely. The beating that followed was calculated, designed to humiliate rather than kill. Butcher wanted them alive. To see what came next. "Livestream's got 1,000 views already," one Razorback reported, phone still recording. "Time to finish this." Trace watched through swollen eyes as they dragged Shadow's limp form into the center of the loading bay. His partner's tactical vest was in tatters, but the dog's chest still rose and fell with stubborn determination. "Smile for the camera, hero." Butcher knelt beside Shadow, pliers gleaming in the phone's light. "Let's see how good a tracker he is, missing a few teeth." The first yelp of pain carved itself into Trace's memory as backup sirens finally wailed in the distance. The Razorbacks scattered like smoke, leaving both Handler and K9 bleeding in the snow beside Chen's unconscious Rex. As consciousness faded, Trace remembered something Sarah used to say about military K9 handlers. "Most people think the dogs are trained to attack. Truth is, we train them to hunt. And there's nothing more dangerous than a hunter who's tasted his own blood." The Razorbacks had just declared war on the wrong K9 handler. They thought tonight was about sending a message. Instead, they'd just started something they couldn't possibly understand. In the snow-filled darkness, as emergency lights painted the mill in crimson pulses, Trace made a promise to his wounded partner. The Razorbacks were about to learn the difference between fighting a cop and provoking a predator. The hunt was about to begin. The adrenaline faded as paramedics worked on Shadow at Silver Ridge's only veterinary clinic. Dr. Maya Patel, former military veterinarian who'd served with Trace in Afghanistan, moved with practiced efficiency despite the late hour. "Multiple contusions, possible internal bleeding," she reported, checking Shadow's vitals. "The taser did some damage, but your boy's tough. Military conditioning probably saved his life. In the next room, Dr. Chen worked on Rex, the German Shepherds. Injuries were worse. The Razorbacks had taken their time before Shadow and Trace arrived. The dog would live, but his police career was over. Sheriff Emma Torres arrived as Maya finished stabilizing Shadow. 20 years on the force had carved lines around her eyes, but tonight they carried a deeper weight. 4 incidents in the last month, she said, watching the medical team work. K9 units targeted across 3 states. We thought they were isolated. Attacks! They weren't! Trace's voice carried the cold focus he'd developed hunting high-value targets. This was planned. Military tactics, counter K9 measures. They knew exactly what they were doing. Razorbacks posted the video. Deputy Mike Rogers, tech specialist, held up his tablet. Already viral in certain circles, they're bragging about taking down a Special Forces K9 handler. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The footage showed everything. The tactical lights, the coordinated attacks, the methodical cruelty, but they'd missed something crucial in their celebration. Freeze that frame, Trace ordered, studying the video. There, in the background, Rogers zoomed in. Behind the violence, barely visible in the loading bay's shadows, wooden crates. More military shipping codes. Those aren't supposed to be there. Torres recognized the markings from her own service days. Restricted weapons, manifest numbers. How'd a bunch of bikers get access to military shipments? Because they're not just bikers. Trace watched Shadow's vital signs stabilize on the monitor. That takedown pattern, the counter K9 tactics, that's special operations training. Someone's using the Razorbacks as cover for something bigger. Maya returned with blood test results, her expression grim. Found something interesting. Shadow was hit with more than tasers, military-grade tranquilizers in his system, the kind used for capturing high-value targets overseas. The implications hung heavy in the sterile air. Street thugs looking for fun didn't have access to restricted military pharmaceuticals. There's more. Rogers scrolled through police reports. Similar attacks on K9 units all led to suspended investigations, cases mysteriously reassigned or buried in bureaucracy. Someone's protecting them. Torres studied the shipping codes. Someone with enough pull to make police investigations disappear. Shadow stirred on the examination table, fighting the sedatives with characteristic stubbornness. Trace felt his partner's eyes track every movement. Military training, overriding pain to maintain tactical awareness. Chief Deputy Wallace wants this handled quietly, Torres continued. Says we can't risk escalating tensions with organized crime. Elements. Wallace has been blocking investigations into the Razorbacks for months, Rogers added. Always finds a reason to redirect resources elsewhere. Trace checked his tactical gear, mentally cataloguing needed replacements. Wallace doesn't understand what he's dealing with. The Razorbacks just made 3 critical mistakes. Only 3. Maya's attempt at humor carried worried undertones. They hurt my partner. They revealed their military connections. And most importantly, Trace watched Shadow's determined efforts to rise despite Maya's gentle restraint. They forgot that military K9 handlers don't just work with dogs. We hunt with them. Torres recognized the shift in his demeanor, the transition from police officer to predator. She'd seen it before, and other veterans pushed too far. By the book, Trace. We do this by the book. Always. But they both knew better. The Razorbacks had just started a war they weren't equipped to fight. Through the clinic's windows, snow continued falling on Silver Ridge's empty streets. Somewhere out there, the Razorbacks celebrated their victory, not understanding they'd just unleashed something far deadlier than any police K9 unit. They were about to learn why Special Forces handlers were called Death's Trackers in the darker corners of the world. The hunt was about to begin, and Marcus Trace Blackwood hadn't spent 3 tours hunting high-value targets just to watch thugs hurt his partner for entertainment. The war for Silver Ridge was about to start. All because some bikers thought torturing police dogs would be good fun for a Friday night. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. 3 days after the mill attack, Frost clung to the training equipment as Trace ran Shadow through modified exercises. The Belgian Malinois moved with calculated precision despite his injuries, military training pushing him to maintain peak performance. "Easy, boy," Trace cautioned, noting how his partner compensated for sore muscles. Dr. Meyer's treatments were working, but Shadow's determination to return to duty sometimes exceeded medical advice. The morning sun painted Silver Ridge Police Department's K9 training facility in harsh light. Built through community donations after a series of drug-related deaths 2 years ago, the facility represented hope in a town struggling with changing times. Now it felt like one of the last lines of defense against growing darkness. Deputy Mike Rogers approached, tablet in hand, coffee steam rising in the cold air. Security footage from the mill finally came through. Most cameras were disabled, but one caught something interesting. The video showed Razorbacks arriving in tactical formation, maintaining precise intervals and coverage patterns. Not the chaotic entrance typical of outlaw bikers. Professional, Trace observed, watching Shadow complete a modified tracking exercise. Military precision in their movements. They're trained. Gets better. Rogers swiped through satellite images. Razorbacks have been running protection for cargo shipments along the Montana-Idaho border. Always on nights when Border Patrol surveillance mysteriously fails. Shadow alerted to movement before Sheriff Torres appeared. 20 years of law enforcement experience showed in her careful approach, always scanning, always aware. "Wallace is blocking the investigation," she announced without preamble. "Says the mill incident was unfortunate but isolated. Wants us focusing on routine patrols instead." Convenient timing. Trace checked Shadow's protective vest, reinforced after the attack. Right when we start finding connections between the Razorbacks and military shipments, Dr. Meyer's truck arrived, medical supplies visible through the windows. The former military veterinarian had been monitoring Shadow's recovery daily. Her expertise crucial in adapting training to his healing process. "Blood work concerning," she reported, reviewing charts on her laptop. "Those military-grade tranquilizers they used? They're experimental, restricted to special operations testing programs. Street dealers can't access them." Torres studied the data. "How restricted?" "Level 5 classification. I saw them once during deployment, used for capturing high-value targets without risking fatal overdose. Somehow the Razorbacks got military pharmaceuticals that even most bases can't requisition." Shadow's ears twitched slightly as Rogers' radio crackled. "Possible Razorback activity near Peterson's storage. Multiple bikes reported." "That's the 3rd sighting this week," Torres noted. "They're getting bolder." Trace watched his partner work through pain to complete another exercise. The Belgian Malinois hadn't lost any tactical awareness despite his injuries. If anything, the attack had sharpened his combat instincts. "They're testing responses," he concluded, "mapping patrol patterns, reaction times. This isn't random violence anymore. They're preparing for something." Meyer's tablet chimed with alerts. "You need to see this. Rex's latest scans." The German. Shepard's injuries had been worse than initially apparent. The damage wasn't just brutal, it was systematic. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum trauma with minimum risk of death. That's special operations knowledge. Trace recognized the pattern. Targeting nerve clusters, avoiding fatal zones. They wanted him alive but permanently disabled. Torres's phone buzzed with messages. Wallace called an emergency meeting, town. Council's involved now. They're talking about reducing K9 patrols, citing safety concerns. More like creating blind spots, Rogers added. Every time we get close to connecting the Razorbacks to those military shipments, Wallace finds ways to redirect resources. Shadow completed his final exercise as snow began falling again. The Belgian Malinois moved with deadly grace despite his healing wounds, each motion calculated for maximum efficiency with minimum energy expenditure. Running facial recognition on known Razorbacks, Rogers continued, tablet displaying results. 3 former Special Forces, 2 ex-Rangers, multiple combat deployments. These aren't random thugs playing soldier. They're professionals using Baker colors as cover. Maya studied Shadow's movement patterns. His tactical awareness is actually improving. Military training kicked in stronger after combat stimulus. It's like the attack reactivated deeper programming. Because he's not just recovering, Trace explained, watching his partner patrol the facility's perimeter. He's hunting. Sarah used to say military dogs don't think like regular canines. When they're injured in combat, their training doesn't just help them heal, it makes them more dangerous. Torres received another alert. Multiple Razorback chapters converging on the area. Whatever they're planning, it's big enough to need reinforcements. Through the facility's cameras, they watched 3 bikes pass slowly down the street. Not subtle, deliberate, sending a message about who controlled the streets now. They're establishing dominance, Rogers observed, making sure everyone knows they can act with impunity. No, Trace corrected, checking his tactical gear. They're making mistakes, getting overconfident, showing us exactly who they are and how they operate. Shadow's posture shifted slightly as more bikes rumbled past. The Belgian Malinois had healed enough for limited patrol work, but Trace recognized the change in his partner's demeanor. This wasn't just a police dog preparing to return to duty. This was a military hunter marking targets. Wallace wants you both recertified before returning to active duty, Torres warned. Says your judgment might be compromised after the attack. Interesting timing, Maya noted. Right when Shadow's almost combat-ready again. Trace ran his partner through one final exercise, noting how the dog's movements flowed with lethal precision. They think the attack compromised us, made us vulnerable. They don't understand what they actually did. Which is? Rogers asked, though his expression suggested he already knew. They reminded us what we really are. Trace watched Shadow track the departing bikes with cold focus. Before we were police, we were hunters. Sarah used to say there's a reason military K9 teams train differently from regular units. We don't just chase threats, we hunt them, learn their patterns. Then, when the time is right. He left the sentence unfinished as more Razorbacks passed the facility. Their show of force only confirmed what Trace already suspected. Somewhere in Silver Ridge, a carefully hidden operation was about to discover that all their tactical training, all their political protection, all their elaborate protocols had just made them easier to track. The Razorbacks thought their military connections made them untouchable. They were about to learn why Special Forces handlers were called Death's Trackers in the darker corners of the world. Later that afternoon, Trace reviewed surveillance footage in SRPD's Tactical Operations Room. Each video showed the same pattern. Your Razorbacks conducting coordinated reconnaissance, testing police response times. Facial recognition got a hit, Rogers announced, bringing up personnel files. Remember Butcher's second-in-command at the mill, Marcus Razor Thompson, former Delta Force, specialized in counter-insurgency operations, discharged after allegations of excessive force in Afghanistan. Deputy Sarah Chen wheeled herself into the room, still recovering from the attack that had cost Rex his career. The young officer's determination hadn't dimmed, even if her mobility was temporarily limited. Found something in the evidence from that night, she reported, spreading photos across the tactical table. Those military crates weren't empty. Residue analysis shows traces of experimental combat stimulants, the kind used in classified enhancement programs. Shadow's ears pricked up moments before Dr. Meyer entered with new test results. Speaking of combat enhancement, Shadow's blood work shows something interesting. Those tranquilizers they used, they're designed to counter augmented performance. Someone thought he was chemically enhanced. Because they're using the stimulants themselves, Trace concluded, studying footage of the mill attack. Look at their movement patterns during the assault, heightened aggression, no pain response, perfect coordination. They're field testing, experimental combat drugs. Torres arrived with more disturbing news. Border Patrol just found 2 of their K9 units dead. Professional hits, same pattern as the mill attack. Wallace is calling it random gang violence. Nothing random about it. Rogers pulled up satellite imagery. Every K9 hit corresponds with unregistered cargo movements across the border. They're eliminating our detection capabilities. Through the operations room windows, they watched another group of Razorbacks cruise past the station. Their numbers had doubled since the attack, their presence a constant reminder of shifting power dynamics. They're getting ready for something big, Chen observed, absently rubbing her injured leg, using the MC as cover while they set up major smuggling operations. Maya's tablet displayed chemical analysis of the residue. These stimulants, their next-generation combat enhancers, designed to create super soldiers without genetic modification, highly restricted, supposedly still in the development phase. Someone's using the Razorbacks to test experimental military drugs. Trace watched Shadow analyze new scents from evidence bags, using criminal organizations as unwitting test subjects while eliminating K9 units that might detect the shipments. The Belgian Malinois moved with fluid precision despite his healing injuries, each motion demonstrating why military dogs were considered force multipliers in combat zones. The attack hadn't weakened him. It had awakened something deeper. Wallace scheduled your recertification for next week, Torres informed them. Full tactical evaluation, psychological assessment, says it's standard procedure after trauma. Standard procedure that gives them time to move whatever they're planning, Rogers added. Every K9 unit they've disabled was scheduled to patrol border sectors during major cargo movements. Shadow alerted to new movement outside, more bikes arriving, establishing perimeter positions with military precision, not just showing force now, conducting tactical surveillance. They're watching us, Chen noted, learning our patterns, adapting their operations. This isn't just about drugs or weapons anymore. They're building something bigger, much bigger. Maya studied chemical profiles on her screen. These enhancement compounds, they're worth millions on the black market, perfect for creating elite criminal forces without traceable supply chains. Trace checked his tactical gear while Shadow maintained overwatch positions. The Belgian Malinois hadn't just recovered. He'd evolved, turning military training into something more dangerous. Wallace thinks keeping us off patrol protects his operation, he said quietly, watching his partner track multiple threats through reinforced windows. He doesn't understand what we really do. And what's that? Chen asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. We hunt. Trace recognized Shadow's alert posture, the same one that had saved their lives countless times overseas. Sarah used to say police dogs chase threats, but military K9s hunt them, learn their patterns, study their movements, then when they think they're safe. He left the sentence unfinished as more Razorbacks established surveillance positions around the station. Their show of force revealed everything Trace needed to know. Somewhere in Silver Ridge, a sophisticated criminal operation was about to learn the difference between avoiding police and being hunted by someone who specialized in tracking high-value targets through combat zones. The catalyst event occurred a week after the mill attack. Rain fell in icy sheets as Trace and Shadow conducted their first patrol since being cleared for duty. The Belgian Malinois moved with predatory grace, his injuries healed but not forgotten. K9-1, suspicious activity reported at Harrison Freight. Dispatch crackled. Multiple bikes on scene. Possible break-in. Copy dispatch. Shadow and I are 3 minutes out. Harrison Freight sat on Silver Ridge's industrial edge. Its warehouse is perfect for moving cargo without attention. As they approached, Shadow's posture shifted, combat instincts detecting what cameras missed. Multiple hostiles, Trace reported, watching his partner analyze scents. Professional operators, maintaining tactical spacing. Through the rain, they watched Razorbacks load unmarked crates into waiting trucks. Their movements carried military precision, each team maintaining perfect coverage patterns. Dispatch requesting backup at Harrison Freight. Razorbacks conducting organized theft. His transmission died as jammers activated, cutting all communications. They'd prepared for this, wanting K9 units isolated well. Butcher emerged from the shadows, rainwater gleaming on his leather. Our favorite K9 team, right on schedule. More bikes appeared, surrounding them in textbook containment formation. Trace counted 15 operators, all moving with combat training. You should have stayed down, Butcher continued, features twisted in the harsh beam of security lights. Now you're going to learn why we're called the Razorbacks. Shadow's growl deepened as figures emerged carrying specialized equipment. Not standard weapons, military prototype gear that shouldn't exist outside classified testing. See, those crates you're so interested in, Butcher gestured to the warehouse. They're full of toys that make your fancy police K9 obsolete. Want a demonstration? The attack came from multiple angles, each team using advanced tactical gear. Sound weapons designed to disorient dogs, strobe systems that disrupted visual tracking, and something else, a high-frequency pulse that made Shadow stumble. Latest in counter K9 technology, Butcher explained, watching Trace fight to protect his disoriented partner. Makes military dogs useless. Pretty soon, every crew worth anything will have these. No more K9 units interfering with business. But they'd made a critical mistake. Shadow wasn't just a military dog, he was a hunter. As the Belgian Malinois fought through the disorientation, his training transformed pain into tactical data. The next few minutes became a clinic in why military K9 handlers trained differently from standard units. Shadow moved like a ghost through the rain, targeting power sources and control systems. Each prototype weapon failed as the handler and dog systematically dismantled their tactical advantage. Impossible, Butcher snarled, watching his equipment. Spark and die. Those systems are designed to stop any K9, any regular K9, Trace corrected as Shadow disabled another control unit. You forgot what military dogs really are. We don't just attack threats, we hunt them, learn their weaknesses, adapt. The Razorbacks' formation crumbled as their sophisticated gear failed. These weren't street thugs playing soldier. They were professional operators discovering their technology meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Then Shadow found what they were really protecting. Hidden beneath legitimate cargo, military crates bore classified markings, experimental combat enhancers and prototype weapons that shouldn't exist outside secure facilities. Kill them, Butcher ordered as backup sirens finally wailed in the distance. Burn everything! The firefight that followed would reshape Silver Ridge forever. Shadow moved with lethal precision as Trace engaged multiple targets. Years of combat experience transformed both handler and dog into something the Razorbacks hadn't counted on. Hunters who'd learned from their previous encounter. When police finally arrived, they found destroyed prototype weapons, scattered evidence of classified military shipments, and a dozen injured Razorbacks who'd discovered why Special Forces handlers were called Death's Trackers. But Butcher had escaped with key evidence, and the raid revealed something worse. Through the warehouse office's broken windows, Trace spotted Chief Deputy Wallace meeting with suited figures in an unmarked SUV. The corruption went higher than anyone suspected. This isn't over, Butcher's voice carried through captured radio and frequencies. You just started a war you can't win. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as evidence teams processed the scene, his military training detecting threats beyond the perimeter. Both handler and dog knew the real battle was just beginning. "We found something," Rogers approached, a tablet displaying shipping manifests. "These aren't just drug shipments. They're running classified military technology, prototype weapons, experimental combat enhancers, next-generation tactical systems. Using the Razorbacks as a distribution network," Torres added, studying the evidence. "But who's supplying military-grade hardware to outlaw bikers?" Through security feeds, they watched Wallace coordinate with unknown figures, his careful movements suggesting deeper involvement than simple corruption. "They'll try to bury this," Rogers warned. "Wallace is already calling it a routine drug bust, denying any military connection." Trace checked Shadow's tactical gear as rain continued falling. The Belgian Malinois had proven something crucial. Tonight, he hadn't just survived the mill attack, he'd evolved into something deadlier. "Let them try," he replied quietly, watching his partner track multiple threats through the storm. "They still think this is about police work or criminal investigation. They don't understand what they're really facing, because tonight had confirmed everything they suspected. The Razorbacks weren't just criminals with military training. They were part of something bigger, something that reached into classified programs and corrupt officials. The war for Silver Ridge had just escalated from local corruption to international crime. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged: hunt down everyone involved in hurting his partner, no matter how high the corruption reached. Shadow moved silently through the warehouse debris as federal agents documented evidence. The Belgian Malinois had detected something others missed: spent shell casings with military markings that shouldn't exist in civilian hands. "These aren't standard rounds," Torres confirmed, bagging the evidence. "Experimental armor-piercing ammunition, restricted to special operations testing." Maya arrived to treat wounded Razorbacks, her military experience revealing disturbing patterns. Combat stimulants in their system, latest generation stuff, enhances strength, speed, eliminates pain response, explains why they kept fighting after critical injuries. "It gets worse," Chen wheeled through the evidence markers, a tablet displaying chemical analysis. "Those prototype weapons they used against Shadow? They're not just counter K9 tech. They're testing systems designed to neutralize enhanced soldiers. Someone's preparing for a war with augmented forces." Shadow alerted the movement before Wallace appeared, other officials in tow. The chief deputy's carefully neutral expression couldn't hide his tension. "Good work containing a drug operation," he announced to gathered media. "But these theories about military involvement are unfounded. The Razorbacks are just well-organized criminals, nothing more." "Strange definition of nothing more," Rogers muttered, showing Trace his tablet. Satellite imagery caught multiple black SUVs, leaving secure military facilities right before tonight's shipment arrived. Someone's coordinating from inside the system. Through surveillance cameras, they watched unmarked vehicles collect damaged prototype weapons. Men in suits coordinated with Wallace, their movements suggesting federal authority, but lacking proper identification. "They're cleaning the house," Torres observed, "removing evidence of military connection before the FBI arrives." Shadow maintained overwatch positions as Trace studied the operation. The Belgian Malinois hadn't just fought tonight. He'd gathered intelligence, marking targets for future hunting. "Found something else," Maya reported quietly. "Blood samples from injured Razorbacks matched genetic markers I saw in classified enhancement programs. They're not just using combat stimulants, they're test subjects for next-generation soldier modifications." That's why they targeted K9 units, Chen realized. Dogs can detect chemical changes from genetic manipulation. They're eliminating early warning systems while testing enhanced operators in real conditions. Wallace's phone conversation carried through the rain. Situation contained. No evidence linking to Project Echo. K9 unit proved problematic but manageable. Project Echo? Rogers typed rapidly. Classified military program, supposedly. Cancelled 3 years ago. Focused on creating enhanced soldiers through chemical and genetic modification. Trace checked Shadow's tactical gear, noting how his partner processed multiple threat vectors simultaneously. The attack had accelerated the Belgian Malinois' evolution, turning military training into something more lethal. They're using criminal organizations to continue banned enhancement programs, he concluded, testing prototype weapons while eliminating anyone who might detect their operation. The Razorbacks aren't just distribution, they're proof of concept. Thunder crashed as more unmarked vehicles arrived. Men in tactical gear moved with federal authority, securing perimeters while collecting specific evidence. CIA? Torres wondered, watching them coordinate with Wallace. No identification, no badges. Rogers studied their movements. Black ops teams, scrubbing any connection to official programs. Shadow's alert posture shifted as suited figures emerged from an unmarked helicopter. Their arrival transformed the crime scene into something else, a classified operation being sanitized by professionals. "You need to stand down," Wallace approached, his tone carrying practiced authority. "This is now a federal matter. Your involvement ends here." "Interesting timing," Trace replied, watching Shadow track multiple threats, right when we find evidence linking criminal organizations to classified military programs. Wallace's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You're interfering with matters beyond your clearance, beyond your understanding. Walk away while you can." But the chief deputy had revealed something crucial. This wasn't just local corruption or criminal enterprise. This was systematic exploitation of classified programs, using outlaw bikers to test illegal enhancement procedures. The war for Silver Ridge had just evolved into something bigger than anyone suspected. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down everyone involved, no matter how deep the conspiracy reached. The real prey had just revealed itself. The hunt was about to begin in earnest. The initial response began at dawn, 3 days after the Harrison Freight incident. Shadow worked through advanced tracking exercises as Maya delivered critical news. Federal teams swept the warehouse clean, she reported, reviewing data on her tablet. But Shadow's blood work showed something interesting. His body's producing antibodies to the prototype weapons. He's adapting at a cellular level. Trace watched his partner navigate complex scent trails. The Belgian Malinois moved with enhanced precision, military training evolving beyond standard protocols. More K9 units hit last night, Rogers approached, showing surveillance photos. 3 states, same pattern, professional strikes targeting. Specialized detection dogs, they're eliminating anyone who might track their shipments. Shadow alerted the movement before Torres arrived. The sheriff's expression carried grim determination. "Wallace is moving against us," she announced. "Internal affairs investigation claims were compromised by personal vendetta. He's trying to shut down our K9 program entirely, because we're getting close," Chen added, wheeling through tactical data. "Those prototype weapons they used, they're part of something called Project Echo, classified military program for creating enhanced combat units. Through facility cameras, they watched Razorbacks establish surveillance positions. Their numbers had grown, reinforced by operators with distinct military bearing. They're not just watching anymore," Rogers observed. "Those new riders, former special forces, combat enhancement specialists. They're bringing in professionals." Maya's tablet chimed with alerts. Chemical analysis came back on those stimulants. They're not just combat enhancers, they're genetic modifiers, permanent alterations to human physiology, creating their own enhanced soldiers. Trace concluded, checking Shadow's tactical gear, using criminal organizations as test subjects while eliminating anyone who might detect the changes. Shadow's posture shifted as unmarked vehicles approached the facility. Men in tactical gear moved with federal authority but carried no identification. The CIA's moving in, Torres warned. Wallace gave them jurisdiction over all K9-related incidents. They're shutting down investigations across 3 states. Not CIA, Rogers countered, studying their movements. No official documentation, no agency protocols. These are private contractors using federal authority as cover. Through reinforced windows, they watched the contractors establish containment positions. Their coordination showed extensive experience in facility seizure operations. This facility is now under federal control, a voice announced through tactical frequencies. All personnel are ordered to stand down and surrender evidence relating to recent K9 incidents. But Shadow had already detected what the contractors missed. His military training identified alternate escape routes, marking targets for future hunting. They're not just here for evidence, Maya noted, securing critical samples. Those teams are equipped with specialized capture gear. They're here for Shadow, because he's proving something dangerous. Chen analyzed tactical data. These enhanced soldiers they're creating? They're vulnerable to advanced K9 detection. Shadow's adaptation threatens their entire program. The contractors breached with professional efficiency, each team maintaining perfect coverage patterns. But they didn't understand what they were dealing with. What followed was a clinic in why military K9 handlers trained differently from standard units. Shadow moved like a ghost through his own facility, systematically dismantling their tactical advantage. Each team found their sophisticated equipment failing against protocols designed for exactly this scenario. Multiple teams compromised, their leader reported tensely. Target is neutralizing our systems. Because you're thinking like soldiers, Trace replied through captured frequencies. Following protocols while facing someone who spent years learning to counter them, the contractors attempted to regroup, but found their options systematically eliminated. Each fallback position had been compromised before they reached it. Full withdrawal, their commander ordered as federal agents approached. Containment protocols failed. Through surveillance networks, they watched Wallace coordinate with suited figures in black SUVs. The chief deputy's carefully controlled movements suggested deeper involvement than simple corruption. They'll escalate now, Torres warned, watching. Contractors retreat. Wallace can't risk exposure to the enhancement program. Let them, Trace replied quietly, checking Shadow's gear. They still think this is about police work or federal authority. They don't understand what they're really facing, because today had confirmed something crucial. This wasn't just about corrupt officials or classified programs. This was about systematic exploitation of human subjects, using criminal organizations to test illegal enhancement procedures. The war for Silver Ridge had just evolved into something bigger than anyone suspected. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down everyone involved, no matter how deep the conspiracy reached. Through the facility's cameras, they watched more unmarked vehicles arrive. Military contractors established new positions, their tactics revealing specialized training in facility containment. Satellite data came through, Rogers reported. Multiple black sites activated along the Montana-Idaho border. They're mobilizing serious resources to contain this. Shadow moved with lethal precision as Maya secured critical evidence. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond his training, becoming something the contractors hadn't anticipated. Found something in the chemical analysis, she said, displaying molecular structures. These combat enhancers, they're not just modifying soldiers, they're creating something new, permanent genetic alterations that transform human physiology. That's why they're using criminal organizations, Chen concluded, tracking contractor movements. testing enhancement procedures on disposable subjects while eliminating detection capabilities. Shadow alerted to movement as Wallace arrived with federal teams. The chief deputy's measured steps couldn't hide his growing tension. "This facility is now under quarantine," he announced. "All evidence relating to recent K9 incidents is classified above top secret. Surrender your files immediately." Interesting choice of words, Trace noted, watching Shadow process multiple threats. Quarantine implies containment of something dangerous, something that threatens your operation. Wallace's smile carried cold authority. "You have no idea what you're interfering with. This goes beyond local law enforcement, beyond federal jurisdiction. Stand down while you still can." But the chief deputy had revealed something crucial. This wasn't just about corrupt officials or classified programs. This was about systematic human experimentation, using criminal organizations as unwitting test. "Subjects, more K9 units targeted overnight," Torres reported, checking tactical feeds. "Professional hits across 4 states. They're eliminating every dog capable of detecting enhanced soldiers." Through security networks, they watched Razorbacks coordinate with military contractors. Former Special Forces operators mixed with outlaw bikers, their movements showing effects of combat enhancement. "They're not even hiding it anymore," Rogers observed. "Using prototype weapons in broad daylight, displaying enhanced capabilities. They want everyone to see their power." Shadow maintained overwatch positions as Maya analyzed new data. The Belgian Malinois processed threat vectors with evolutionary precision, turning military training into something beyond standard protocols. "His adaptation is accelerating," she noted, studying medical readouts. "Combat protocols integrating with natural instincts, creating enhanced hunting capabilities. He's becoming exactly what they're afraid of." "Because they understand what military dogs really are," Trace replied, checking tactical gear. "We don't just detect threats, we hunt them, learn their patterns, evolve to counter them." Wallace's phone conversation carried through captured frequencies. "Situation escalating, K9. Unit showing dangerous adaptation. Recommend immediate termination protocols." The war for Silver Ridge had become something none of them expected, but for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down everyone involved in this corruption, no matter how deep it reached. "They'll come for him now," Torres warned, watching contractors establish new positions. Shadows proving their worst fears, that enhanced soldiers can be tracked, can be hunted. "Let them come," Trace replied quietly, as his partner marked multiple targets. "They still think like soldiers, following protocols and procedures. They don't understand what they're really facing." Because today had confirmed everything they suspected. This wasn't just about corrupt officials or classified programs. This was about systematic exploitation of human subjects, using criminal organizations to test illegal enhancement procedures. The hunt was about to begin in earnest, and somewhere in Silver Ridge, a carefully hidden operation was about to learn why military K9 handlers were called Death's Trackers in the darker corners of the world. The first discovery struck at midnight. Shadow tracked scents through Silver Ridge's industrial district while Trace monitored tactical feeds. The Belgian Malinois froze, detecting chemicals that shouldn't exist outside classified facilities. "Found something," Trace radioed Torres. Shadows picked up traces of Project Echo compounds. Fresh trail. They followed the scent to an abandoned steel mill. Through thermal imaging, multiple heat signatures moved with inhuman speed inside. "Got eyes on enhanced subjects," Rogers confirmed through secure channels, "showing physiological changes consistent with genetic modification. They're not even trying to hide it anymore." Shadow marked entry points as Maya analyzed atmospheric data. Concentration of enhancement compounds in the air. They're manufacturing the stimulants here, using local facilities as production sites. The mill's security systems activated. revealing sophisticated countermeasures. Professional operators established defensive positions while modified Razorbacks patrolled the perimeter. Federal task force incoming, Chen warned through encrypted channels. Wallace mobilized containment teams. They're trying to secure the facility before we gather evidence. Shadow detected the trap before they sprung it. Enhanced operators emerged from concealed positions, their movements displaying augmented capabilities. Welcome, to the future of warfare. Butcher's voice carried unnatural resonance. The Razorback leader stepped into floodlights, his physique showing obvious modifications. Project Echo isn't just about creating better soldiers, it's about evolving beyond human limitations. More enhanced operators appeared, their features twisted by genetic alterations. Each displayed capabilities that violated natural law. Impressive, isn't it? Butcher gestured to his transformed brothers. No more relying on fancy gear or tactical training. We're becoming something new, something superior, Shadow maintained. Perfect focus as Trace assessed threats. The Belgian Malinois processed multiple vectors, adapting to enhanced adversaries. That's why we targeted K9 units first, Butcher continued. Dogs can detect the changes, track the evolution, but your partner's proving particularly problematic. He's not just detecting us, he's learning to hunt us. The attack came from multiple angles. Enhanced Razorbacks moved with supernatural speed, while professional operators provided tactical support. But they'd made a critical error. Shadow engaged with evolutionary precision, targeting weaknesses the modifications created. Each enhanced operator discovered their augmented capabilities meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Impossible. Butcher snarled, watching his transformed soldiers fall. Those enhancement procedures make us stronger, faster. They make you predictable, Trace corrected, as Shadow systematically dismantled their advantage. Military dogs don't just detect threats, we hunt them, learn their patterns, adapt to counter them. The facility's defenses crumbled as federal teams approached. Through surveillance feeds, Wallace coordinated with suited figures in unmarked vehicles. Sierra teams compromised, tactical frequencies crackled. Enhanced units neutralized by K9 elements, containment protocols failing. Shadow located their primary objective. Classified documents detailing Project Echo's true scope. The enhancement program wasn't just creating modified soldiers, it was transforming human subjects into living weapons. This ends tonight. Butcher activated emergency protocols. Purge everything, leave no trace. The firefight illuminated Silver Ridge's industrial skyline. Enhanced operators discovered their modifications provided no defense against a hunter evolved to track them. When federal teams finally breached the facility, they found destroyed equipment, scattered evidence of classified experiments, and multiple enhanced subjects who'd learned why military K9s were considered apex predators. This goes deeper than we thought. Torres surveyed the aftermath. They're not just enhancing soldiers. They're trying to create a new species. Maya analyzed chemical residue, while Shadow maintained tactical awareness. These compounds, they're not just temporary stimulants. They're permanent genetic modifiers designed to fundamentally alter human biology. Using criminal organizations as test subjects, Chen added, documenting evidence. The Razorbacks aren't just distribution, they're prototype post-human soldiers. Through secure channels, Wallace's conversation revealed darker implications. Situation critical. K9 unit demonstrating dangerous adaptation. Recommend immediate termination before further evolution. Shadow processed multiple threats as Trace studied tactical data. The Belgian Malinois had proven something crucial. He wasn't just detecting enhanced subjects. He was evolving to hunt them. The war for Silver Ridge had transformed into something beyond human comprehension. But for Handler and Hound, the mission remained clear. Track down everyone involved in this corruption, no matter how inhuman they became. Through broken windows, Roger's tablet displayed satellite data. Multiple black sites activated along the Canadian border. Whatever Project Echo is, it's expanding beyond Montana. Shadow marked chemical traces while Maya analyzed blood samples from enhanced subjects. These genetic modifications, they're creating cascading mutations. Each new generation of the formula produces more extreme changes. Not just physical enhancement, Chen noted, documenting recovered files. Increased aggression, diminished empathy, pack mentality. They're engineering perfect soldiers with no moral restraints. The facility's computers revealed Project Echo's evolution. What began as standard combat enhancement had morphed into systematic transformation of human subjects. "Found something," Torres called from the loading bay. Beneath steel plates, hidden chambers contained medical equipment and restraint systems. They're not just enhancing willing subjects, they're conducting forced modifications. Shadow's alert posture shifted as Wallace arrived with federal teams. The chief deputy's movements suggested enhancement effects, subtle changes only military dogs could detect. "You're interfering with classified weapons development," he announced, with features tightening unnaturally. "This facility is now under quarantine. Surrender all evidence immediately. Weapons development. Trace, watch, shadow track multiple threats. You're using American citizens as test subjects, creating inhuman soldiers through forced modification." Wallace's laugh carried distorted resonance. "Humans are obsolete. Project Echo isn't just about enhancement, it's about engineering the next stage of evolution, creating a superior species to wage tomorrow's wars." More enhanced operators emerged from unmarked vehicles. Their grotesque forms displayed increasing mutation, humanity sacrificed for combat efficiency. "You still don't understand." Wallace's voice deepened as changes manifested. "This isn't about right or wrong anymore. This is about survival, evolution, becoming something greater than human limitation." But Shadow had already adapted to their mutations. The Belgian Malinois processed threat vectors with evolutionary precision, identifying weaknesses their modifications created. "That's why your K9 must be eliminated," Wallace concluded. "He's proving our greatest fear, that nature can evolve countermeasures to our engineered perfection." The war for Silver Ridge had become a battle for humanity's future. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down these corrupted beings, no matter how inhuman they became. The escalation began as storm clouds gathered over Silver Ridge. Enhanced Razorbacks launched coordinated strikes against police infrastructure, their mutations granting terrifying new capabilities. 3 substations hit, Torres reported, as emergency lights bathed the tactical center. They're targeting power grids, communications, anything that could track their movements. Shadow processed multiple threat vectors, while Maya analyzed fresh samples. The mutations are accelerating. Each attack shows further genetic deviation. They're becoming less human with every enhancement. Through surveillance feeds, mutated operators displayed impossible abilities. Former humans moved with predatory grace, their forms twisted by Project Echo's corrupted science. Wallace mobilized federal resources, Rogers tracked tactical data. Black sites across 3 states activated simultaneously. They're not containing the situation anymore, they're expanding it. The Belgian Malinois alerted seconds before the first explosion. Enhanced subjects breached the perimeter with devastating force, their modified bodies shrugging off conventional weapons. "You can't stop evolution!" Butcher's distorted voice echoed through shattered windows. The Razorback leader's massive frame rippled with inhuman muscle. Project Echo is the future, the next stage of human advancement. More modified operators emerged from the darkness. Each displayed unique mutations, some built for speed, others for raw power, all engineered for perfect killing efficiency. That's why we're eliminating resistance now, Butcher continued as his transformed soldiers established attack positions. No more playing at police work. Time to show everyone the new order. But Shadow had already adapted to their mutations. The Belgian Malinois engaged with evolutionary precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. Each enhanced subject discovered their augmented capabilities meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Multiple threats converging. Chen tracked thermal signatures. They're herding civilians toward containment zones, rounding up test subjects for forced modification. Through secure channels, Wallace coordinated the operation. Begin mass. Enhancement procedures. Resistance must be eliminated. Prepare for species-wide transformation. Maya's analysis revealed darker implications. These aren't just combat mutations anymore. They're engineering a replacement species, something to supplant baseline humans entirely. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as Trace assessed options. The Belgian Malinois processed threat vectors with predatory focus, adapting to each new enhancement he encountered. That's why they fear him, Torres observed, watching Shadow track multiple mutations. He's proving that nature can evolve countermeasures. To their engineered perfection, the attack came from all directions. Enhanced operators breached with devastating force, while modified Razorbacks provided inhuman muscle. But they'd made a critical error. What followed was a clinic on why military K9s were considered apex predators. Shadow moved with lethal precision, systematically dismantling their tactical advantage. Each mutated subject discovered their modifications provided no defense against a hunter evolved to track them. Impossible, Butcher snarled, watching his transformed soldiers fall. These enhancements make us superior. They make you predictable, Trace corrected, as Shadow neutralized another threat. Military dogs don't just detect enemies, we hunt them, learn their patterns, adapt to counter them. Through facility cameras, Wallace's mutations became apparent. The chief deputy's form rippled with barely contained changes as Project Echo consumed his humanity. You don't understand what's coming. His distorted voice carried inhuman resonance. The future belongs to the enhanced, the modified, they evolved. But Shadow had already identified the pattern. Each new mutation, each enhancement only made them easier to track. The Belgian Malinois had become something they never anticipated. A hunter evolved specifically to counter their engineered perfection. The war for Silver Ridge had transformed into a battle for humanity's future. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down these corrupted beings, no matter how inhuman they became. Through the tactical center's windows, enhanced subjects displayed increasingly grotesque mutations. Former humans scaled walls with insectoid limbs, while others phased through solid matter. Sierra Team compromised. Rogers monitored communications. Wallace deployed enhanced federal units. They're not just containing the situation, they're transforming law enforcement into mutated soldiers. Shadow tracked chemical signatures while Maya processed new data. The genetic cascade is reaching critical mass. These modifications are becoming exponentially more extreme. Each new generation is further from the human baseline. Chen's tablet displayed thermal imagery of containment zones. Civilians herded into makeshift facilities, screaming as forced enhancement procedures began. Found their supply chain. Torres examined recovered files. Black sites along the Canadian border producing enhancement compounds. Military contractors provide security while modified subjects handle distribution. The Belgian Malinois alerted. Moments before the next wave struck, enhanced operators breached in perfect coordination, their twisted forms displaying impossible abilities. You still resist the inevitable. Butcher's voice resonated unnaturally. The Razorback leader's massive frame rippled as fresh mutations manifested. Project Echo isn't just creating better soldiers. We're engineering humanity's replacement. More modified subjects emerged, each uniquely twisted. Some moved like liquid metal, others generated localized gravity fields, all engineered for perfect lethality. The age of baseline humans is ending, Butcher gestured to his transformed warriors. Time to embrace evolution, become something greater than your limited flesh. But Shadow had already adapted to their new capabilities. The Belgian Malinois engaged with evolutionary precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. Each enhanced subject discovered their augmented powers meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Multiple enhanced teams converging, Chen tracked their approach. They're not just attacking anymore, they're harvesting, converting everyone they capture into more modified soldiers. Through secure channels, Wallace directed the operation with inhuman clarity. Begin mass enhancement protocols. Resistance must be eliminated. Prepare for species-wide transformation. The war for Silver Ridge had become a desperate battle for humanity's survival. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Hunt down these corrupted beings before their twisted evolution consumed everything. Through reinforced bunker walls, more enhanced subjects displayed their mutations. Some generated electromagnetic pulses while others manipulated local gravity fields, found their command center. Chen accessed encrypted files. Project Echo's leadership includes military officials, intelligence directors, and corporate executives. They're coordinating a worldwide transformation campaign. Shadow tracked chemical signatures while Maya processed new data. These enhancement compounds, they're designed for mass deployment, aerosol distribution, water supply contamination. They're planning species-wide forced evolution. The Belgian Malinois alerted the movement as Butcher emerged from underground labs. The Razorback leader's form had transformed beyond recognition, flesh and metal fused in impossible ways. You've seen our production facilities, his voice resonated, through modified vocal cords. Impressive, isn't it? The infrastructure to remake humanity, to force the next stage of evolution. More mutated operators established defensive positions. Each displayed unique modifications, organic weapons, built-in, armor-enhanced sensory capabilities. The Razorbacks were just the beginning, Butcher gestured to transformed soldiers. Criminal organizations make perfect test subjects. No one misses them when the modifications fail, when the mutations go wrong. Through security feeds, containment, cells revealed horrific failed experiments, test subjects whose bodies rejected enhancement, twisted by uncontrolled mutations. But we've perfected the process now. Butcher's inhuman features twisted in approximation of a smile. Ready for mass implementation, global transformation, the dawn of post-human civilization. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as Trace documented evidence. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond military training, becoming nature's answer to their engineered abominations. That's why your K9 must be eliminated, Butcher concluded. He represents nature's resistance to our forced evolution, proof that our perfect species can still be hunted. The war for Silver Ridge had become a desperate battle for humanity's future. But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Stop these corrupted beings before their twisted vision consumed the world. The counterattack struck at sunrise. Enhanced operators breached the tactical center with devastating force, their mutations granting impossible abilities. Multiple teams coordinated assault. Torres tracked thermal signatures. They're targeting evidence storage, trying to eliminate. Project Echo documentation. Shadow detected the ambush before it triggered. Modified subjects emerged from concealed positions, their twisted forms rippling with barely contained power. Destroy everything. Wallace's distorted voice echoed through reinforced walls. No trace of the program can remain. More enhanced soldiers, phased through solid matter, while others generated localized gravity fields. Each displayed unique mutations engineered for perfect lethality. The future cannot be stopped. Butcher emerged from swirling energy fields, his massive frame crackling with electromagnetic discharge. Project Echo is humanity's destiny. But Shadow had already adapted to their new capabilities. The Belgian Malinois engaged with evolutionary precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. What followed was a desperate battle for survival. Enhanced subjects discovered their augmented powers meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Critical data secured. Rogers transmitted through emergency channels, uploading Project Echo files to secure servers. They can't bury the evidence now. Maya's analysis revealed the attack's true purpose. They're not just destroying documentation. These enhanced units are displaying new mutations. They're field-testing combat evolution. Through facility cameras, Wallace coordinated with suited figures in unmarked vehicles. The chief deputy's form rippled as fresh modifications manifested. Sierra teams compromised, tactical frequencies crackled, enhanced units neutralized by K9 elements, subject displaying unprecedented adaptation. Shadow maintained perfect focus. As Trace assessed damage, the Belgian Malinois processed threat vectors with predatory precision, evolving to counter each new enhancement. That's why they fear him, Chen observed, watching Shadow track multiple mutations. He's proving that nature can overcome their engineered perfection. The facility's defenses crumbled as federal teams approached. Enhanced operators discovered their modifications provided no defense against a hunter evolved to track them. "You've forced our hand?" Wallace's inhuman voice resonated through captured channels. "Implementation accelerated. Global enhancement begins now." But the attack had revealed something crucial. This wasn't just about destroying evidence. This was about eliminating anyone who could expose Project Echo's true purpose. Through broken windows, more enhanced subjects demonstrated their mutations. Some generated electromagnetic pulses, while others manipulated molecular structures. Underground bunkers activated. Rogers monitored seismic data. Mass enhancement procedures beginning. They're transforming civilian populations into modified soldiers. Shadow tracked chemical signatures while Maya analyzed atmospheric changes. Enhancement compounds dispersing through ventilation systems. They're forcing evolution on anyone caught in the facility. The Belgian Malinois alerted seconds before the next wave struck. Modified federal teams breached with devastating force, their bodies twisted beyond recognition. "You still don't understand." Wallace's inhuman voice resonated through shattered walls. Project Echo isn't just about creating better soldiers. We're engineering humanity's replacement. More mutated operators emerged from swirling energy fields. Each displayed unique modifications: organic weapons, built-in armor, enhanced sensory capabilities. The age of baseline humans is ending. Butcher's massive frame rippled with fresh mutations. Time to embrace evolution, become something greater than limited flesh. Through security feeds, containment zones revealed horrific transformations. Civilians writhed as forced enhancement procedures rewrote their genetic code. Multiple extraction. Teams compromised. Chen tracked thermal signatures. They're not just attacking anymore, they're harvesting, converting everyone they capture into more enhanced soldiers. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as Trace documented evidence. The Belgian Malinois had become something Project Echo never anticipated, nature's answer to their engineered abominations. That's why he must be eliminated. Wallace's features twisted unnaturally. He represents resistance to our forced evolution, proof that our perfect species can still be hunted. The war for Silver Ridge had transformed into a desperate battle for humanity's survival, But for Trace and Shadow, the mission remained unchanged. Stop these corrupted beings before their twisted vision consumed the world. The facility's defenses crumbled as more enhanced subjects breached containment. Each displayed increasingly unstable mutations, their humanity sacrificed for combat efficiency. Found their command structure. Torres accessed encrypted files. Project Echo leadership includes military officials, intelligence directors, corporate executives. They're coordinating worldwide transformation. Through tactical channels, Wallace directed the operation with inhuman clarity. Begin mass enhancement protocols. Resistance must be eliminated. Prepare for species-wide evolution. The counterattack had revealed Project Echo's true scope. This wasn't just about creating enhanced soldiers. This was about systematically replacing humanity with an engineered species. Shadow processed multiple threats as Trace assessed options. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond military training, becoming the last line of defense against their twisted evolution. Strategic planning began in an underground bunker beneath Silver Ridge's police station. Shadow analyzed facility blueprints while Trace mapped Project Echo's infrastructure. Enhancement compounds detected in water supply. Maya monitored chemical sensors. They're preparing for mass deployment. Forced evolution on a citywide scale. The Belgian Malinois tracked inhuman scents through reinforced tunnels. Former military installations repurposed for Project Echo's twisted vision. Multiple black sites identified. Rogers accessed satellite data. Enhancement facilities across 3 states. They're creating a network for species-wide transformation. Through surveillance feeds, enhanced subjects conducted combat drills. Each displayed unique mutations, organic weapons, phase-shifting abilities, gravity manipulation. Found their supply chain. Chen examined tactical data. Military contractors provide security, while modified subjects handle distribution. Global infrastructure is already in place. Shadow maintained perfect focus as Trace studied facility layouts. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond military training, becoming nature's answer to their engineered abominations. That's why we eliminate him first. Wallace's distorted voice echoed through captured channels. He represents everything that threatens our ascension. Proof that nature can still resist us. More enhanced operators established defensive positions. Former humans twisted beyond recognition, their bodies fused with experimental technology. Project Echo isn't just about enhancement anymore. Maya analyzed genetic data. They're engineering a replacement species, something to supplant humanity entirely. Through secure networks, they watched Wallace coordinate with suited figures in unmarked vehicles. The chief deputy's form rippled with barely contained mutations. Sierra teams compromised. Tactical frequencies crackled. Enhanced units displaying unprecedented abilities, evolution accelerating beyond projected parameters. Shadow processed multiple threats as Trace formulated a strategy. The Belgian Malinois had become something Project Echo never anticipated. A hunter specifically evolved. To counter their perfection, they'll target civilian populations first. Torres studied deployment patterns, using criminal organizations as distribution networks. Forced enhancement through contaminated resources. The planning session revealed darker implications. This wasn't just about stopping enhanced soldiers. This was about preventing humanity's systematic replacement. Found their command structure. Rogers accessed encrypted files. Project Echo leadership includes military officials, intelligence directors, corporate executives. They're coordinating worldwide transformation. Shadow alerted to movement seconds before Butcher breached the bunker. The Razorback leader's massive frame crackled with electromagnetic energy. Your planning means nothing. His inhuman voice resonated through reinforced walls. The future belongs to the enhanced, the modified. They evolved, but the Belgian Malinois had already adapted to their mutations. Each enhanced subject discovered their augmented powers meant nothing against a predator engineered to hunt them. Multiple teams converging, Chen tracked thermal signatures. They're not just attacking anymore. They're harvesting, converting everyone they capture into more modified soldiers. Through facility feeds, Wallace directed operations within human precision. Begin mass enhancement procedures. Resistance must be eliminated. Prepare for species-wide transformation. Through reinforced bunker walls, they mapped Project Echo's tactical structure. Enhanced units maintained perfect coordination, their mutations granting supernatural awareness. Found something critical. Maya's analysis revealed darker patterns. These enhancement compounds, they're designed for exponential replication. Once released, they'll spread through human populations like a virus. Shadow tracked chemical signatures while Torres examined defense options. The Belgian Malinois processed each threat vector, adapting to counter their twisted evolution. Civilian evacuation routes identified. Chen marked safe corridors. We can't stop their initial deployment, but we can protect key populations from forced enhancement. The bunker's displays showed Project Echo's expansion. Modified subjects established control points across Silver Ridge, preparing for mass transformation. Their command structures vulnerable. Rogers highlighted tactical weaknesses. Enhanced units require constant chemical support. Disrupt their supply chain, we limit their evolution. Shadow alerted to movement as Wallace's enhanced teams approached. Their mutations granted impossible abilities, but each modification made them easier to track. Your resistance is futile. The chief deputy's distorted voice carried inhuman resonance. Evolution cannot be stopped. The future belongs to the enhanced. But their planning had revealed crucial weaknesses. Project Echo's perfect soldiers relied on complex support systems. Disrupt those systems, their evolution becomes unstable. Multiple supply routes identified. Torres mapped distribution networks. Military contractors moving enhancement compounds. Through legitimate channels, we cut those channels, we limit their reach. Through secure feeds, they watch Butcher coordinate with enhanced federal teams. The Razorback leaders' form rippled with increasingly unstable mutations. They're desperate. Maya analyzed combat footage. These latest modifications, they're sacrificing stability for raw power. Their evolution's becoming unsustainable. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as Trace finalized strategy. The Belgian Malinois had become something beyond military training. Nature's answer to their engineered abominations. The war for Silver Ridge would determine humanity's future. But for Handler and Hound, the mission remained unchanged. Stop these corrupted beings before their twisted vision consumed everything. The first major victory unfolded at Project Echo's primary enhancement facility. Shadow traced chemical signatures through reinforced corridors, while Trace coordinated tactical teams. Supply chain located, Rogers monitored facility feeds. Central distribution hub for enhancement compounds. Their manufacturing evolution on an industrial scale. The Belgian Malinois detected threats before they materialized. Enhanced subjects emerged from secure zones, their bodies twisted by unstable mutations. Your interference ends tonight. Wallace's inhuman voice resonated through steel walls. The Chief Deputy's form rippled with barely contained power. Project Echo cannot be stopped. More modified operators established defensive positions. Each displayed unique mutations, molecular manipulation, energy projection, phase-shifting abilities. You still don't understand, Butcher emerged from swirling fields of force. This facility isn't just producing enhancement compounds, it's engineering humanity's replacement. But Shadow had already adapted to their evolution. The Belgian Malinois moved with lethal precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. What followed was a demonstration of why military K9s were considered apex predators. Each enhanced Subject discovered. Their augmented powers meant nothing against a hunter evolved to track them. Production systems compromised. Chen accessed facility controls. Enhancement compound synthesis disrupted. Their supply chains collapsing. Maya's analysis revealed critical vulnerabilities. These mutations require constant chemical support. Without the facility's production capacity, their evolution becomes unstable. Through security feeds, Wallace coordinated desperate countermeasures. Enhanced federal teams discovered their sophisticated mutations, provided no defense against a predator engineered to hunt them. Sierra teams neutralized. Tactical frequencies crackled. K9 unit displaying unprecedented adaptation. Cannot contain the target. Shadow maintained perfect focus as Trace secured critical evidence. The Belgian Malinois had become something Project Echo never anticipated. Nature's answer to their engineered abominations. Multiple enhanced units destabilizing. Torres tracked. Thermal signatures. Without chemical support, their mutations are breaking down. The whole network's falling apart. The facility's destruction revealed Project Echo's fatal flaw. Their perfect evolution relied on complex support systems. Disrupt those systems, their twisted transformation collapses. This isn't over. Wallace's distorted voice carried inhuman fury. Evolution cannot be stopped. The future belongs to the enhanced. But the victory had proven something crucial. Project Echo's engineered perfection could be defeated. Nature could still overcome their twisted evolution. Continuing part. 10 primary supply lines neutralized. Rogers documented collapsing distribution networks. Their engineered superiority crumbles without chemical foundations. Shadow navigated facility sectors while Maya analyzed compound degradation. Accelerated breakdown in modified subjects. Their genetic stability depends entirely on continuous enhancement delivery. Through shattered barriers, destabilizing operatives fought with increasing desperation. Each failed attack revealed vulnerabilities in their supposed perfection. Command structure fragmenting. Chen tracked thermal decay. Enhanced units losing cohesion. Their carefully orchestrated network dissolves into chaos. The Belgian Malinois anticipated threats before manifestation. His instincts outpaced their programmed responses. Natural adaptation, trumping artificial advancement. Impossible. Butcher snarled through deteriorating vocal structures. Our evolution transcends biological limitations. We've surpassed nature's boundaries. Shadow's response demonstrated otherwise. His movements flowed with calculated efficiency, exploiting weaknesses their modifications inadvertently created. Critical systems failing. Torres monitored facility collapse. Enhancement production ceased. Their foundation of forced evolution disintegrates. Wallace emerged amidst cascading alarms, his frame warping under molecular stress. You've merely delayed the inevitable. Progress marches forward despite resistance. The facility's implosion illuminated fundamental truths. Their engineered supremacy required constant maintenance, artificial perfection, sustained through chemical dependence. Database secured. Chen extracted classified files. Complete documentation of Project Echo. Their systematic corruption was exposed at last. Maya processed biometric data from deteriorating subjects. Cellular breakdown is accelerating. Without compound support, their mutations prove unsustainable. Beyond reinforced walls, enhanced units discovered harsh reality. Their vaunted capabilities meant nothing against naturally evolved countermeasures. You've doomed humanity's advancement. Wallace's distorted frequencies carried desperation. Condemned our species to biological stagnation. Shadow tracked unstable signatures, while Trace secured evidence. Together, they'd proven nature's resilience against manufactured evolution. The victory marked a turning point. Project Echo's carefully constructed illusion shattered, revealing the inherent flaws in their twisted vision. Through secure channels, they monitored the operation's collapse. Each failing enhancement facility confirmed their strategy's effectiveness. The war for humanity's future had reached its critical phase. Natural selection versus engineered evolution, with Silver Ridge's soul hanging in the balance. The enemy coalition mobilized with ruthless efficiency. Destabilized enhanced units converged on Silver Ridge from every direction, their desperate mutations growing increasingly unstable. Massive thermal signatures approaching. Chen monitored perimeter sensors. Every remaining Project Echo asset mobilizing, they're launching an all-out offensive. Shadow detected chemical traces of previously unseen modifications. These mutations transcended their earlier attempts, sacrificing humanity for raw destructive potential. Final evolution protocols activated. Rogers intercepted encrypted transmissions. They're implementing contingency enhancements, burning through their remaining compound reserves. The Belgian Malinois analyzed emerging threats while Maya processed atmospheric data, unprecedented molecular instability. These new mutations bypass natural limits completely. Wallace coordinated the assault from a mobile command center, his form barely recognizable as human. Initiate Omega-level transformation. No more restraint, no more pretense. Butcher's massive frame led the charge, crackling with electromagnetic discharge. Witness true transcendence, evolution unbound by biological constraint. But Shadow had anticipated their desperation. Each new mutation only confirmed their fundamental weakness: dependency on artificial enhancement. Multiple breaches detected. Torres tracked facility incursions. Enhanced units displaying suicidal aggression. They're expanding themselves like biological weapons. Through shattered defenses, Project Echo's forces demonstrated their final forms. Some phase-shifted through solid matter, while others manipulated gravity itself. They're not trying to survive anymore, Maya analyzed combat data. These modifications guarantee cellular breakdown. They're sacrificing everything for one decisive strike. Shadow maintained tactical awareness as Trace coordinated countermeasures. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond their artificial mutations, becoming nature's ultimate answer. Your resistance ends today. Wallace's distorted frequencies carried absolute conviction. Humanity's replacement cannot be prevented. Evolution demands advancement. Chen documented fresh horrors through security feeds. Civilian populations targeted for forced enhancement. They're trying to trigger widespread transformation. Through fractured surveillance networks, international chaos unfolded. Similar coalitions emerged globally, each implementing Project Echo's twisted protocols. Unprecedented biometric readings. Maya scanned fresh data. These modifications ignore cellular limits completely. Pure destruction at the molecular level. Shadow anticipated assault vectors as enhanced units breached perimeters. His natural instincts outmaneuvered their programmed responses, proving evolution's superiority. Command structure shifting. Rogers analyzed tactical feeds. They're abandoning individual control, forming a collective consciousness through shared mutations. The Belgian Malinois tracked quantum signatures while Torres coordinated defense teams. Hybrid forms emerging, they're combining enhancement types, creating impossible amalgamations. Butchers, transformed Legion, demonstrated their final metamorphosis. Organic matter fused with experimental technology, birthing abominations beyond scientific understanding. Observe humanity's next phase. Wallace's fractured voice resonated through quantum fields. Perfect union of flesh and force. Biology transcended through engineered will. Fresh horrors emerged from swirling energy matrices. Some manipulated temporal fields while others warped spatial dynamics, reality itself buckling under their presence. There, breaching dimensional barriers, Chen monitored quantum fluctuations. These enhancements violate fundamental laws. They're ripping apart existence itself. Shadow processed impossible threats while Trace documented evidence. Together they'd prove nature's resilience against manufactured transcendence. Molecular breakdown accelerating. Maya tracked cellular decay. These final forms consume themselves. Pure power at the cost of total destabilization. Through quantum channels, Wallace directed humanity's replacement. Implementation cannot be stopped. Evolution demands advancement beyond biological constraint. The Coalition's desperate gambit revealed fundamental truth. They're manufactured. Perfection required constant maintenance, artificial supremacy sustained through chemical dependence. Silver Ridge's last stand would determine existence itself. Natural selection versus engineered ascension, with reality's fabric hanging in the balance. The ultimate hunt was about to begin. The skyline erupted as Project Echo unleashed otherworldly powers. Enhanced units phased through quantum barriers, their presence distorting local reality. Dimensional ruptures detected, Chen monitored spatial anomalies. Their mutations breach natural laws completely. Physical constants are destabilizing. Shadow analyzed quantum trajectories as Trace mapped defense points. The Belgian Malinois' adaptations outpaced their artificial advancement, nature evolving perfect countermeasures. Network consciousness expanding, Rogers tracked hive mind signatures, individual units surrendering autonomy, merging into a collective entity. Wallace directed operations through quantum frequencies, his form transcending physical limits. Witness Ascension's final phase. Humanity's constraints are abolished through engineered will. Fresh abominations emerged from reality's fractured edges. Some bent temporal flow, while others warped spatial geometry, existence straining under impossible forces. Molecular integrity failing, Maya documented cellular collapse. These apex forms consume their own structure, raw power destroying their fundamental makeup. Through quantum feeds, they watch civilization's turning point unfold. Project Echo's desperate gambit would determine humanity's path, natural evolution or engineered extinction. The Coalition's final assault revealed absolute truth. Manufactured transcendence required constant support. Artificial supremacy sustained. Through unstable foundations, Silver Ridge's defense marked existence's crossroads. Biological adaptation versus engineered ascension, with reality's continuation hanging in balance. The ultimate hunt approached its climax. Quantum anomalies multiplying, Rogers tracked spatial distortions. Their mutations generate gravitational waves. Local space-time fabric is deteriorating rapidly. The Belgian Malinois processed impossible signals while Maya analyzed atomic decay. Each enhanced unit's presence warped fundamental forces, reality straining under their violation of natural law. Hive consciousness reaching critical mass. Chen monitored collective signatures. Individual enhanced units losing distinct patterns, merging into something beyond comprehension. Through quantum barriers, Wallace coordinated humanity's extinction. His transformed legion demonstrated powers that defied scientific understanding: matter manipulation, time dilation, dimensional phasing. Observe true transcendence. Butcher's fractured voice echoed across quantum frequencies. Biological limits abolished. Perfect union of engineered will and infinite force. Shadow anticipated threats that existed outside normal space-time. His natural adaptations countered their impossible abilities, evolution crafting perfect responses to artificial advancement. Global protocols accelerating. Torres tracked worldwide chaos. Similar coalitions are emerging on every continent. Project Echo planned this endgame from the start. Fresh horrors materialized through reality's torn edges. Enhanced units combined mutations in ways that violated causality itself. Organic. Matter fused with quantum technology, birthing abominations that shouldn't exist. Molecular structure failing across all subjects. Maya documented cellular breakdown. These apex forms consume their own atomic makeup. Pure power at the cost of total destabilization. The coalition's desperate assault revealed an absolute truth. Their manufactured transcendence required constant maintenance. Artificial supremacy sustained through unstable foundations that threatened existence itself. Witness evolution's true path. Wallace's distorted frequencies carried through quantum fields. Humanity's replacement cannot be prevented. Biological constraints end today. Shadow processed impossible threats, while Trace coordinated defense. Teams. The Belgian Malinois had become something beyond military training, nature's ultimate answer to their engineered apocalypse. Dimensional ruptures expanding, Chen tracked spatial tiers. Their mutations violate conservation laws completely. Reality itself buckles under their presence. Through fractured surveillance networks, they watched civilization's turning point unfold. Project Echo's final gambit would determine humanity's path, natural evolution or engineered extinction. Command structure dissolving into quantum foam. Rogers analyzed tactical feeds. Individual units surrender consciousness completely, forming a collective entity beyond physical limits. Silver Ridge's last stand marked existence's crossroads. Each enhanced unit's impossible powers demonstrated. The price of artificial advancement, reality itself threatened by their violation of natural law. Observe humanity's next phase. Butcher emerged through spatial distortions, his form barely contained by three-dimensional space. Perfect union of engineered will and infinite potential. But Shadow had evolved beyond their artificial mutations. His natural adaptations proved more effective than their manufactured transcendence, demonstrating evolution's superiority over engineered advancement. The Coalition's desperate gambit revealed fundamental truth. Their quest for perfection through artificial means threatened existence itself. Nature's path of gradual adaptation proved more stable than manufactured ascension. Silver Ridge's defense would determine reality's continuation. Natural selection versus engineered evolution, with existence itself hanging in the balance. The Gas' ultimate hunt approached its final phase. The climactic confrontation ignited at midnight. Project Echo's collective consciousness breached dimensional barriers around Silver Ridge, reality warping under their violation of natural law. Quantum anomalies at critical mass. Chen tracked spatial distortions. Their final mutations ignore. Physical constants completely. Local spacetime is destabilizing. Shadow processed impossible threats while enhanced units phased through quantum barriers. Each abomination demonstrated powers beyond comprehension. Temporal manipulation, gravity control, matter reconfiguration. Observe humanity's ascension. Wallace's fractured voice resonated across dimensions. His transformed legion fused with experimental technology, transcending physical limits entirely. The Belgian Malinois anticipated attacks that existed outside normal spacetime. His natural adaptations countered their manufactured transcendence, evolution crafting perfect responses. Global protocols activated, Rogers monitored worldwide chaos. Similar coalitions are emerging on every continent. Project Echo implementing species-wide transformation. Fresh horrors materialized through reality's torn edges. Some bent temporal flow while others warped spatial geometry, existence straining under impossible forces, molecular integrity failing across all subjects. Maya documented cellular breakdown. These apex forms consume their own atomic structure. Pure power destroys fundamental makeup. Through quantum feeds, Wallace directed humanity's extinction. Implementation cannot be prevented. Evolution demands advancement beyond biological. Constraint. Shadow tracked quantum signatures while Trace coordinated defense teams. The Belgian Malinois had evolved beyond their artificial mutations, becoming nature's ultimate answer. Multiple breaches detected. Torres mapped dimensional ruptures. Enhanced units displaying impossible abilities. They're tearing apart reality itself. Butcher's transformed legion demonstrated their final metamorphosis, organic matter fused with quantum technology, birthing abominations that violated causality. Your resistance ends tonight. Wallace's distorted frequencies carried absolute conviction. Humanity's replacement cannot be stopped. Evolution demands transcendence. But Shadow had anticipated their desperation. Each new mutation only confirmed their fundamental weakness, dependency on artificial enhancement. The climactic battle intensified as Shadow engaged impossible threats. His movements flowed with natural precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. Quantum field. Destabilizing, Chen monitored reality fractures, local space-time fabric deteriorating under enhanced presence, dimensional barriers failing. Through shattered defenses, Project Echo's forces unleashed their final forms. Some manipulated temporal flow, while others bent gravity itself, existence straining under their violation of natural law. Observe true perfection. Butcher emerged through spatial tears, his form barely contained by three-dimensional space. Engineering evolution beyond biological limits. The Belgian Malinois processed threats that defied physics. Each adaptation proved nature's superiority over artificial advancement, perfect responses crafted through natural selection. Global protocols reaching critical mass, Rogers tracked worldwide chaos. Similar confrontations unfolding across continents. They planned this endgame from inception. Maya analyzed cellular decay as enhanced units pushed beyond physical constraints. Molecular structure failing completely, these apex forms consumed themselves for raw power. Shadow anticipated attacks from multiple dimensions, while Trace coordinated defense teams. Together they demonstrate evolution's triumph over engineered transcendence. Reality itself protests their existence. Torres documented spatial anomalies. These mutations violate fundamental constants. The universe rejects their manufactured perfection. Wallace directed operations through quantum frequencies, his form transcending physical understanding. Witness Ascension's final phase. Humanity's constraints are abolished through engineered will. Fresh abominations emerged from fractured dimensions, organic matter fused with experimental technology, birthing horrors that shouldn't exist in natural space-time. Command structure dissolving. Into quantum foam, Chen tracked collective consciousness. Individual units surrendering autonomy completely, forming an entity beyond comprehension. The Belgian Malinois moved with lethal grace as enhanced units breached reality's edges. His natural instincts outpaced their programmed responses, proving evolution's superiority. Silver Ridge's last stand would determine existence itself. Project Echo's desperate gambit threatened reality's fabric, their manufactured transcendence consuming fundamental forces. The ultimate hunt approached its climax. Natural selection versus engineered evolution, with the universe's continuation hanging in balance. The final resolution unfolded beneath shattered dimensional barriers. Project Echo's twisted evolution consumed Silver Ridge's reality, space-time. Fracturing under their violations of natural law, Shadow engaged impossible threats, while enhanced units phased through quantum tiers. Each abomination demonstrated powers beyond comprehension. Temporal distortion, gravity manipulation, molecular reconfiguration. Final protocols activated. Rogers monitored global chaos. Project Echo implementing species-wide transformation. Humanity faces extinction-level events. The Belgian Malinois anticipated attacks that existed outside normal space-time. His natural adaptations countered their manufactured transcendence, evolution crafting perfect responses. Wallace directed operations through quantum frequencies, his form barely contained by three-dimensional space. Witness ascension's completion, biological constraints end today. Fresh horrors materialized through reality's edges. Organic matter, fused with experimental technology, birthing monstrosities that violated causality itself. Molecular integrity critical, Maya documented breakdown patterns, enhanced forms consuming atomic structure, pure destruction at quantum level. Shadow tracked impossible signatures, while Trace coordinated defense teams. Together they'd prove nature's resilience against artificial advancement. Dimensional ruptures expand. Chen mapped spatial tiers. Their mutations breach physical constants. Universe rejects their manufactured perfection. Through quantum feeds, civilization's turning point unfolded. Project Echo's desperate gambit threatened existence itself, their engineered evolution. Consuming fundamental forces, Butcher's transformed legion unleashed their ultimate assault. Their collective consciousness warped reality's fabric, existence straining under impossible forces. Observe perfection's price, Maya analyzed quantum readings. These apex forms sacrifice stability for raw power. Universe itself rejects their presence. Shadow anticipated threats from multiple dimensions, while Torres coordinated evacuation protocols. The Belgian Malinois demonstrated evolution's triumph over artificial transcendence. Global anomalies multiplying, Chen tracked worldwide. Chaos. Similar confrontations unfolding across continents. Earth's fundamental constants are deteriorating. Through fractured barriers, Wallace directed humanity's extinction. His form transcended physical understanding. Consciousness spread across our quantum fields. Implementation proceeds. His distorted frequencies resonated. Natural selection replaced by engineered ascension. Biological restraint is abolished forever. Fresh abominations emerge through spatial tiers. Some bent temporal flow while others manipulated matter itself, reality buckling under their presence. Command structure dissolving. Rogers monitored collective dissolution, individual units merging into entities beyond comprehension, transcending dimensional limits. The Belgian Malinois processed impossible attacks as enhanced units breached reality's edges. His natural instincts outpaced their programmed responses, proving evolution's superiority. Molecular breakdown accelerating, Maya documented cellular collapse. These mutations consume themselves, pure destruction at atomic level. Silver Ridge's final stand marked existence's crossroads. Project Echo's desperate gambit threatened universal constants, their manufactured evolution devouring fundamental forces. Through quantum feeds, civilization's turning point unfolded. Each enhanced unit demonstrated the price of artificial advancement, reality itself rejecting their violation of natural law. Shadow's movements flowed with deadly precision, targeting weaknesses their modifications created. His adaptations proved nature's path superior to engineered transcendence. The ultimate hunt approached its conclusion. Natural selection versus manufactured evolution, with reality's continuation hanging in balance. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.